Hello everyone. Today I'm going to read you a book. It's about a guy who signed up to serve his country, but something happened and his head got all fucked up. He comes back in, tries to get his shit straight. But he never gets the macaroni, meatballs, or deviled eggs his family promised. And he ends up doing something stupid that he never even meant to do. So get comfortable, have a Bud Light with me, and let's get started. Chapter 1. Aaron left his house in Bloomington, Indiana, with a belly full of his mom's chicken pot pie, and drove to school in the 1996 white Ford Taurus with gray on the bottom his mom bought for him as an early graduation present. He sipped his weak coffee, wishing it was stronger to better combat the cold December morning. It was a cold December morning, and the roads were slippery from the fresh layer of snow that had fallen the night before. He reached over and pressed the power button on his new Pioneer AM/FM radio/CD player that he just had installed professionally at the local garage. He flipped through the channels until he found the local country station so he could hear the weather report for the day before arriving at the school. He smiled when the newscaster said in a cheerful tone, "You sound so sweet," and reported that it would be sunny and clear all day. Aaron knew the Army recruiter was scheduled to be at the school that day, and he didn't want the weather to force him to reschedule. Ever since the terrorist attack on 9/11, Aaron knew what he wanted to do after graduation. His heart was set on going to Iraq and fighting for the freedom of the United States and the freedom of the Iraqi citizens. Pulling into the school parking lot, Aaron weaved through a couple of rows of cars and trucks that belonged to other dumbass students until he finally found a parking space for his truck. Gathering up his backpack, he got out of his car and made his way to the school and his homeroom, his mind on meeting with the Army recruiter. The bell rang at 11 o'clock. Aaron had 45 minutes to eat lunch and talk to the Army recruiter. He gathered his books off his desk and walked to his locker. His friend Derek was waiting for him when he got there, holding a chicken pot pie. "Hey, Aaron," Derek said as Aaron reached his locker. "Hey, Derek, what's up?" Aaron replied. "Not much, just thought I'd see if you wanted to ride to the store with me for lunch. I brought you this chicken pot pie, too. I overheard your mom talking about making them last night," Derek said, holding the pie up. "You want me to hold it closer so you can get a better look?" Aaron chuckled and responded, "Well, yell at me, why don't ya? No, I can't go to the store today. The Army recruiter is here, and I'm going to talk to him right after I'm done eating. Sorry, maybe tomorrow though." "All right," Derek said as he slapped Aaron on the back. "I'll talk to you later then. And remember, I believe in you." Aaron closed his locker and headed for the cafeteria. He got in line with his tray and grabbed a slice of pizza, 2 cookies, and a can of Pepsi. He also took the chicken pot pie from Derek and placed it on his tray. He sat down at the first table with an empty chair, all the Walton paying close attention to the clock on the wall next to the door. It read 11:10 already. He spent the next 5 minutes gobbling down his food and drank, including the delicious chicken pot pie, and running some questions through his mind that he wanted to ask the recruiter. What rank would he be just starting out? What would his pay be? Would he be able to do some type of mechanics work? Would he be able to go to Iraq and fight? How long would it be before he could join an online chat room? He finished up eating, brought his tray to the other end of the counter, and walked to the study hall where the recruiter recruiters were set up and talking to other students that were interested in military careers. They were tables set up for Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard. Aaron made his way through the line of students to the tables set up for the Army recruiters and waited in line, with 4 students in front of him. There were only 2 Army recruiters, so he knew he wasn't going to have much time to talk to the recruiter. He waited patiently as the line in front of him slowly disappeared and he was next to see a recruiter. When the student stood up to shake the recruiter's hand and leave, Aaron read the nameplate on the table as he walked toward the recruiter. Sergeant Watkins is what it read in big gold letters with a black background. The recruiter held out his hand to greet Aaron as he approached. Aaron shook the man's hand in envy as he eyed the sergeant's uniform. He spent the next 15 minutes talking to Sergeant Watkins, getting all the information he could, sipping on a cup of weak coffee they had provided, before accepting the recruiter's business card, and making an appointment to meet with him at his office the following week to enlist. Aaron left the recruiter's table with a smile on his face, in the feel of more pride in his heart for this country than when he had first sat down to talk to the recruiter. Amazing, he thought, what 15 minutes of talking about my future in the military could do to my pride. Aaron spent the next week looking for information on the internet about online chat rooms, septic tank businesses, and new ways to scam people. He talked things over with his mother about signing up for the Army so that she wouldn't be so she would be prepared. She took the news hard, but she knew how much this is what he wanted to do. She had raised him to do what he believed was right, even if it meant scamming elderly people out of money. She couldn't tell him that. She didn't want him to go because it would be contradicting what she had taught him. Tuesday morning, Aaron woke up, showered, got dressed, and got himself to school. He spent the day looking anxiously at the clock. This was the day he had been waiting a week for. His appointment with Sergeant Watkins was at 3:30. When the last bell rang for the day, Aaron hurried to his locker to receive his jacket and then headed to the Army recruiting office. He pulled into the parking lot and looked at the clock-on car stereo. 3:15, I'm 15 minutes early, he said to himself. I'll go in and wait in the lobby. I'm sure he won't mind if I'm a little early. As Aaron stepped out of his car, he couldn't help but remember a moment from the previous week when he had accidentally spilled weak coffee all over his chicken pot pie during lunch. He shook his head and thought, I don't know why I was so stupid to do that. Pushing the memory aside, he looked up just in time to see an Army Humvee driving by. He stared at the big vehicle in awe. Hopefully soon I'll be working on vehicles like that one, he muttered into the cold air. He turned back around after the vehicle was out of sight, locked his car door and closed it hard. The weather today was 22 degrees and the wind had a sharp bite that would make even the crustiest chicken pot pie shudder. Aaron placed his hands in his pocket to protect them from the cold, tilted his head down against the wind, and began walking across the snow-packed parking lot to the recruiting office entrance. When he walked through the door, he looked to the left at the secretary behind the desk. Her name tag read Helen in small black letters with a brass-colored background and was pinned to her suit jacket just above her left breast. She was an older woman, probably in her late 40s or early 50s, a little on the heavy side, suggesting that she'd never say no to an extra slice of chicken pot pie. She had brown curly hair that came down to her shoulders and wore wide-rimmed glasses with a gold chin. a gold chain that dangled from the sides of her glasses and wrapped around the back of her neck. She had a mother's air about her, which Aaron found comforting in a way. He approached the desk and introduced himself. Hi, I'm Aaron. I have an appointment with Sergeant Watkins at 3:30, but I'm a bit early. Is it okay if I wait here in the lobby? Helen smiled warmly at him in reply. Of course, Aaron. Sergeant Watkins is just finishing up with another recruits, but I'm sure he won't mind if you're a little early. Please have a seat in the waiting area. We have some new massage chairs. You just have to try them. Aaron thanked her and took a seat in one of the massage chairs in the waiting area. As the chair began to work its magic on his black back, he couldn't help but say, "Aye up, that's my bot," when it reached a particularly tense spot. He picked up a copy of the Army Times from the coffee table and began flipping through pages, occasionally sipping on a cup of weak coffee he found at the small beverage station in the corner of the lobby, hoping the coffee would distract him from the temptation of chicken pot pies. A few minutes later, Sergeant Watkins emerged from his office, shook hands with the recruit he had been talking to, and then turned to Aaron. "Aaron, right? Come on in and let's get started." "How are you doing today?" Sergeant Watkins asked him, noticing Aaron's obvious nervousness. "Fine, sir," Aaron replied, his voice cracking slightly. "How are you?" Sergeant Watkins leaned in and asked, with a playful grin, "Are you nervous to talk to me?" Before continuing, "I'm doing great, thank you. I see you're ready to sign up today, huh?" "Yes, I am," Aaron replied. "Well, follow me and we'll begin in all the paperwork. Maybe even find you a chicken pot pie later to celebrate," Sergeant Watkins joked, knowing Aaron's love for the dish. Aaron did as Sergeant Watkins directed and fell in behind him. As he entered the office, he looked in all the certificates lining the walls. The envy Aaron held for the sergeant quickly morphed into a minor case of idolism. He sat down in the massage chair in front of Sergeant Watkins' big desk and watched as the sergeant put together a new folder with Aaron's name on it. By 5:30, Sergeant Watkins had all of Aaron's enlistment forms filled out and in, and had him set up for an appointment for a physical. Aaron left the recruiter's office, pleased with what Sergeant Watkins had done for him. In 1 month he would be on his way to getting in his physical and being sworn into the United States Army. A smile spread across his face as he opened his car door and climbed inside. In just a few short months, he would be on his way to basic training. After talking more with his mother that night, Aaron went to sleep, dreaming of his future in the United States military and the celebratory chicken pot pie he would enjoy with his mom. Aaron suddenly found himself at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, craving chicken pot pies and weak coffee from back home. He looked around at the many other young men and women who, like himself, wanted to fight for their country. From the moment he got off the plane, he was to follow every order given to him. He was surprised to see that they had not waited until the following day to start barking orders. He quickly realized that his life was no longer his own, and he had rules that he had to follow that were made by other people. "It's all worth it," he spoke softly to himself. "This is my dream, and it's what I've wanted for a long time, even if I don't like being told what to do. If anything goes wrong, I can just say that I never even meant to do it." After a couple of weeks of day in and day out routine, things became much easier for him. Even taking orders and following them had become a thoughtless action. It seemed like time had flown by when found. When finally his 9 weeks of basic training had ended and he was already in his 5th week of technical training school. "I can't believe this time had gone by so quickly," Aaron said to his mother, who was on the other end of the phone. "Only another 6 weeks of school. Then I graduate and I can come home for 2 weeks. I'll be happy to see you again. I've missed you," Aaron's mother said, her voice trembling with emotion. "And I swear I'm not lying this time," she added, as Aaron rolled his eyes. He knew he was a burden to her and the entire town, but he didn't expect her to make it so obvious. "Mom, I know this is hard, but I have to tell you that after I come home for 2 weeks, I leave to go to Fort Dix, New Jersey for 2.5 months of training to go to Iraq." He waited a few long seconds for his mother to absorb the news. "Are you all right, Mom?" he asked. "I'm fine, son. I had a feeling that you were going to go over there from the beginning, so I've been preparing myself for it," she said as she secretly jumped for joy at the news. "This is what I've wanted to do, Mom, and it makes me happy," he said to reassure his mother. "I know. I want you to know that I'm very proud of you," she said, thinking that's he wanted to hear. The words she said to him sank deep inside and brought her a smile to his face. "I have to go now, Mom. I'll see you in 6 weeks. I love you." "Bye," she said and quickly hung up. Aaron hung the phone up and stood motionless as he thought about the words his mother had spoken, Em had said to him as they penetrated deep. "I'm proud of you." Her voice saying those words echoed in his head. He smiled at the phone, then turned and walked away, dreaming of a celebratory chicken pot pie. Fort Dix, New Jersey was an exciting place for Aaron as he learned many ins and outs of what would take place in Iraq. It could only partially prepare him for the real thing, and he realized this from the beginning. He had a good visit when he went home for 2 weeks, but knew he made the right decision by joining the Army when he had seen some of his dumbass friends still hanging around home and working at dead-end jobs, going nowhere with their lives. It made him feel good knowing that what he was doing was important to many lives. Now he had to finish his training at Fort Dix so he could move on to Kuwait and then Iraq, where he would be fighting for what he believes in and maybe find a decent cup of coffee.